Is this your normal reaction to seeing the coin toss?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
Well, have I got the solution for you? Welcome to DARKWORLD, an archetype where, going first, you can draw your entire deck, set up a whole plethora of different negates, set up an Abyss Dweller, maybe go into an IP Masquerena, hand loop your opponent for a bunch of cards, and of course, going second, you can just do all of that, plus 15 different board breakers. Yeah, this deck list is pretty fun. So here's today's deck list. Now just a reminder for getting to the deck list, if you guys are enjoying today's video and want to see more content just like this in the future, especially if you're a returning viewer, so apparently about 35% of you are watching this or even subscribed to the channel, meaning 65% of you haven't even clicked that button yet. So if you guys are enjoying this content and will see more videos just like this in the future, especially around the latest selection packs, I still have a couple of videos planned including maybe Magic Key, Evil Eye, Trap Tricks, and just basically a bunch of deck lists from that pack. Remember to leave a like on this video and consider subscribing down below so you don't miss out on that content. Alright, let's jump into this deck list. So this deck list is obviously going to be your DARKWORLD deck. Now, a lot of people probably don't know what DARKWORLD does, so I'll give you a brief sort of rundown how the archetype functions. So basically, your entire goal is to discard every single card in your hand repeatedly and draw your entire deck list. That is DARKWORLD in a nutshell, because all these cards love to be discarded. And it's one of the few decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! Where you'll notice I don't have that many sort of tech cards. There's no Max C's in here, there's no Ash Blossoms, no Hand Traps, there's no Called by the Graves. It's all just pure gas. With the entire goal, I just want to draw my entire deck, discard my entire hand, and every single top deck is just going to be pure gas. The only actual tech card I've got in here is of course a Fiend monster being your Lava Golemn, which does have some synergy with this deck list, because some of the cards in here do require you to discard Fiends, and this is a Fiend anyway, so it doesn't break you as much as some of the other tech cards would if you were running them. Let me give you a brief rundown on some of the DARKWORLD monsters. So first of all, we have Ceruli. This card when discarded will just summon itself to your opponent's side of the field and force a discard out of your hand, which is pretty important because it will count as an opponent's card effect, which is great because it procs a bunch of bonus effects of your DARKWORLD monsters. It's specifically going to be Grapha most of the time, because if you discard Grapha via an opponent's card effect, you can look at one card in your opponent's hand. If it's a monster, you can summon that monster to your side of the field, which then leads to a bunch of link summoning and of course the hand rip from your opponent. So that's the main use of this card. Then we have your Snoww. When Snoww is discarded, you just search for any DARKWORLD monster from your deck, add it straight to your hand. Then we have your Genta. This card can discard itself to then search for your field spell, which is incredibly insane because it also combos with the field spell. Because your field spell, you can discard one of your cards from your hand to then banish a card from your graveyard to draw a card, which is great when you have a monster in your graveyard that likes to be banished via your DARKWORLD effects to then special summon itself straight to the field. So a nice little combo here you'll see a bunch during the gameplay. Alright, next up we have your Reign-beaux. This card is basically one of the main reasons this deck list has so much value generation. This card when discarded it can search for your Grapha, then has a bonus effect where if you have a DARKWORLD monster on the field, you can bounce that card straight back to your hand to then summon this thing straight back from your graveyard. And you'll see this a lot during the gameplay as it allows you to basically recycle this card a whole bunch of times, as you'll see. Then we have your Grapha, which actually has a nice little bonus effect, very similar to this one, where it can just bounce your DARKWORLDs from your field straight back to your hand to summon itself from the graveyard. On top of that, the main use of this card, other than for being a hand rip with this guy, is just to destroy your opponent's stuff. Because when this thing is discarded via any other card effect, it will just destroy a card on the field. So, very nice way to break some of your opponent's fields going second. And can also destroy this card, by the way, so you don't keep this thing on your opponent's side of the field, to then give them free resources, because that'd be kind of dumb. Alright, then the final DARKWORLD monster is of course going to be your Grapha, the big fusion monster. This one takes one copy of your normal Grapha plus one DARKWORLD monster. Oh sorry, just one dark monster. When your opponent activates a monster effect or a normal spell and trap card, keep that in mind, just a normal one, so if your opponent activates a quick play, this thing has no effect on it, field spell, no effect, continuous, you get the picture, just normal spell and trap cards. While you have cards in your hand, quick effect, you can activate this effect. This effect becomes your opponent discards one card. So basically it turns any normal spell and trap card or monster effect into a just discard one card from your hand, which will be great because it will count as an opponent's card effect discarding you, proccing your bonus effects of your DARKWORLD cards, and just destroying your opponent's stuff or searching for things or whatever cards you have in your hand. Alright, and the final effect of this is a nice little float effect, where if a fusion summon card, if this fusion summon card its owner's control leaves the field via an opponent's card, you can just spell summon Grapha that is banished or in your graveyard. Then each player discards one card from their hand, so even when this thing's destroyed, it gives you a nice little bonus float effect. There are two more DARKWORLD cards in this deck list, with the first one being your DARKWORLD Archives. This card, during the main phase, you can just discard one DARKWORLD monster from your hand to then boost the attack of all your DARKWORLD monsters on field via that card's level times 100. It's not really used for the attack boost all that much, since this deck list, it definitely doesn't struggle with having high attack. It's just used to have a guaranteed discard of your hand to generally proc its second effect, where if a monster whose original type is Fiend is discarded from your hand by the effect of a DARKWORLD card, which this thing is a DARKWORLD card, or via an opponent's card effect, even during the damage step, you can discard one card, then draw two cards. So another way to discard cards and also draw a whole bunch of cards. And keep in mind though, this thing is a once per turn, so you only generally want one of it, and you add it to your hand via your Snoww. Then we have your fusion spell, which is a quick play spell, DARKWORLD Ascension. During the main phase, you can fusion summon one Fiend monster from your extra deck by banishing materials mentioned on it from your field or graveyard. If a fusion summoning a DARKWORLD monster in this way, you can also discard cards as material, so this card can use resources in graveyard or cards in hand if you're willing to discard, which is pretty good in this deck list because, like you know, things like to be discarded. Alright, during your main phase, if this card is in your graveyard, you can add this card to your hand, then discard one DARKWORLD monster, which is obviously very good because you can set this thing and use it during your opponent's turn to get out a second fusion monster, although this thing is a once per turn, a hard once per turn, so it's not all that relevant, but if your opponent somehow removes one or has like an imperm or something, you can summon out a second one as sort of a backup. Alright, and that's basically all the DARKWORLD cards in this deck list. The last card I will mention in here before we move on, because obviously I can talk about the rest of the cards in here when I'm playing them during the gameplay, is I want to mention you should always be playing at least one copy of Tactics. Because like I said, this deck list, it's aiming to draw through basically your entire deck list, so playing one copy of this, the chance of you hitting it is insanely high. And this deck list, it's guaranteed when going first or second for this thing to be activatable. Regardless if your opponent used a hand trap or used a monster effect, it doesn't matter, because you're going to give your opponent a Ceruli, which then makes them use a monster effect. Triggering this thing to be able to look at your opponent's hand, be able to draw two cards, take control of things, whatever, it's just a guaranteed proc for this card. So you should always be playing one of this. Since you're going to be drawing through your entire deck anyway, you're probably going to see this most games. You can probably play multiple of this if you even feel like it. Alright guys, as for the rest of the deck list, I'll talk about it when we get through it during the gameplay, so without further ado, let's jump into some replays. So unfortunately with this deck list, although it felt really goddamn nice, I didn't quite get enough wins to be able to get a rank up. I did get very goddamn close, but not quite. I think after a bit more practice, because this deck list can be very, very difficult, since there's a billion effects being used at once, it's something you're going to need to get used to, especially when you're fighting against the timer more than your opponent a lot of duels. Yeah, but if you have more practice with this deck list, you're going to rack up a lot of wins. It's definitely a competitively viable deck list. Alright, so first thing I'm going to do is activate my gate to the Dark World. Then I'm going to use my Allure, drawing a couple of cards. Normally I just want to activate this thing out of habit because I don't want this thing in my hand for accidental discards when I'm using my dangers. Alright, Jackalope, going to be discarding, hitting the Lava Golemn, summoning itself, drawing into a card, which now gives me a great discard of Snoww, to then give me a search, which gives me a draw, a search, grabbing of course another field spell searcher. Discarding, adding field spell, activating field spell, which will then allow me to discard the other Snoww in hand, to then banish the card in graveyard, summoning itself to the field. Alright, tossing him on the field, getting a search. A lot of chain blocks, by the way, in this deck list. You'll notice I used it in order where I'm going to be summoning my card last and having the other card try to search before it. That way, from opponent's Ash Blossom, it's completely chain blocked, although you probably would have already used it already by now. Alright, getting a search, grabbing, of course, my Reign-beaux. Activating the brand new card, the Zalamander, which allows me to target a Fiend in hand, discard one of the two cards, whether it be the Zalamander or the Fiend, and special summon the other one. We'll generally be summoning this card out, which gives me 2 level 4s to go into any Xyz plays, or I can just use them to go into whatever links. In this case, I'm going to go for a Cross Sheep. I see a lot of people cutting this card. I don't know why you ever would. This card is insane because it just allows you to recycle your Snowws very easily, as you're about to see. Because whenever you fusion summon below a Cross Sheep, it will just special summon back a monster from your graveyard, so... A low level monster, like level 4 or lower. Alright, so fusion summoning, getting some cards out of my hand, summoning this dude to the field, which then bring back my level 4. Also potentially just destroy a card if my opponent had anything to destroy. Alright, slam it on the field. And then I can activate my effect in graveyard to bounce it back to hand. Danger, discarding, getting a discard in my hand, drawing a card, discarding. Unfortunately, hitting my opponent's discard, that is a bit of a downside in this deck list. There's a couple of effects that are going to make your opponent discard, which is sometimes a bad thing, but in this case we already had a negate set up, so we're just like, we'll just negate that. Get discard another danger, which just gives us another search. Alright, searching for a couple of cards, going to my archives, activating it immediately, bouncing this card back to your hand with the other Grapha. This is, by the way, you're probably noticing, like I said, this deck takes a lot of practice, because there's a lot of random stuff going on here that if you haven't tried out this deck before, you might get a bit confused. So add this card back to my hand via a discard. Because we use a DARKWORLD's effect for discarding, we can then draw 2 cards and discard a card. Alright. Slamming on the field, because we hadn't even used our normal summon yet. 2 level 8s on field, we can go into a copy of our Hope Harbinger. Discarding, this allows us to then look at our opponent's hand, potentially hit a monster. If we do, we can summon it to our field. Unfortunately, I think I hit a spell here. Yeah, unlucky, so I didn't get to hand loop him. And the final piece is we're going to summon out an Appaloosa. So normally this Appaloosa is going to be a 4 material Appaloosa, but it doesn't really matter too much, because you'll notice during this particular replay, so I won't spoil it for you. But this thing actually isn't that weak, being at this attack stat. If this thing was at 800 attack, it would still be a very decent negate. So I'm going to use all of its negates. I'm quite happy to. I've got 3 negates on this thing, I have a negate on this, and I have a negate on this. Alright, discard on this, which negates. Activate the spell card, we're going to suck that one up. Mine now. He activates a field spell. Keep in mind, this thing can't negate it because it only negates normal spell and trap casts. This thing's a field spell, so I can't do shit about it. So it gets a fusion summon off. Summoning out a granola bar. I'm going to negate its effect. Putting my Appaloosa down to 800 attack now. He tries to go to battle phase to get rid of the Appaloosa. This thing, whenever one of your opponents tries to declare an attack, it will force your opponent to attack into it instead. Meaning this Appaloosa, 800 attack, that's still going to be a negate. Your opponent is unable to beat over. Alright, activates this card's effect. I'm going to negate that, discard a card. Alright, of course getting a search. Stealing his monster because we discarded via an opponent's card effect, so we get to yoink his monster from graveyard thanks to the effect of the bonus effect of Snoww. And from here, yeah, he's just basically dead on field. He has no chance. Alright. So once I stop BMing him, we'll fast forward the rest of this. I will just do a bit of BMing. Oh, he concedes. Alright, on to replay number 2. So most of these are going to be going first replays. I think the last one's a example of going second. Because this deck list, like I said, I'm still not sure whether I prefer to go first or second. I think because it's just Yu-Gi-Oh! Where going first is generally just going to be better or easier. It's easier to set up it's easier to disrupt your opponent rather than trying to play through your opponent. So I think this deck list still wants to go first, even if it is just as strong, if not stronger, technically going second. It's just because of how Yu-Gi-Oh! Works, going first is probably the better way to go. But I'm not sure, though. There's probably ways to build this deck list, too, where you aim more for, going second. Alright, so once again, doing the same sort of standard loop. Once again, being able to use this card to summon itself back to the field via the field spell effect, discarding the Reign-beaux, which can then bring back the monster you just special summoned, use it again, because it's not once per turn, then add another field spell to hand. The fact this deck list has like not many once per turn effects, I think the only notable once per turn effect is this thing has, its special summon effect is only once per turn. or it can only be special summoned once per turn, so you can't keep special summoning this thing back to the field. You can only special summon it once. Alright, there's a Bestial, which is Bestials are really annoying for this deck list. They stop a lot of the floating effects, so they stop you from being able to gain a lot of resources. But because my opponent uses monster effects, I can activate Tactics, look at his hand, see if he has any hand traps. In this case, we just got rid of one of his starters, chucked it back in the deck, because he had no hand traps anyway. Alright, sunning my level 4, getting a discard, grabbing my other level 4. Discarding. Alright, getting a search. Unfortunately, he drew into the Ash Blossom off the top. Really annoying, because that meant that I actually got fully bricked here. I couldn't go any further. So despite actually having the, looking at his hand, making sure there's no hand traps so I can sort of play the game, I get sort of bricked here, so I'm like, well, that's a bit annoying. Of course, off the top Ash Blossom, as you do. I mean, at least it wasn't Max C, I guess. Alright, so we summon out our Muckraker instead. Muckraker going to discard a card from my hand to bring back this dude, who we then add back to our hand thanks to the card we just discarded. Also gets to pop a card on the field thanks to Grapha's effect. Doing the same 2-card loop from these dudes. Activating our card destruction, giving him 2 draws, giving us 2 draws, discarding a bunch of stuff. Hitting our DARKWORLD Ascension. Not even hitting it, we actually just searched for this thing outright. This is all calculated gameplay. Alright. Summoning out our fusion monster, discarding the Grapha from hand, which once again pops a card on the field. So this Bestial, it's gone. Get him out of here. He can send a branded spell and trap card to graveyard, but I think he didn't have any in graveyard to use, so he couldn't put that one trap in to add a spell card to hand or anything, or any of that cool branded-y stuff. So that would be fairly worthless. He had one card in hand. He decided, I can't be bothered, and left the game. I think he probably could have relied on a top deck there. I only had sort of one negate set up, but each their own, I guess. Alright. So this deck list, you'll notice, the Bestials do have a pretty big impact on it, but it's not game over if your opponent has Bestials in their deck list. Alright, I think this was the Tailment player, where I misplayed majorly. Alright, so we'll fast forward a little bit of the starter here, doing a bit of draw. Doing a little bit more drawing. As you do. Alright, more drawing, discarding, or making sure we put the field spell on the field so it accidentally hit it from the RNG from your danger. Alright, Jackalope, discarding. Getting a good one there, getting a search, actually getting hold of the archives. Didn't even have to search for it. Once again, discarding, grabbing my danger, getting a search. I think I grabbed the fusion spell yet? Draw up a couple of cards, there's a fusion spell. Alright, summoning out a level 8 from the deck list becomes important later if I want to go into the rank 8. Alright, DARKWORLD Ascension, going to be discarding, banishing from graveyard. There is your Grapha. It's generally better, by the way, to not banish your Graphas from grave. It's better to discard them from hand, because like I showed you earlier, you can bounce your DARKWORLD monster from the field back to your hand if your Graphas are in the graveyard, so just because they're in the graveyard doesn't mean they're useless. They're going to be recycling themselves a lot, so yeah. If your opponent has no cards on the field to destroy, it's generally best to put them in graveyard rather than using the banished ones in grave. Alright, opponent activates this thing, which I'm like, great. I already have a negate ready for it, we're good to go. Well, not a negate, but you get what I mean. A change to a forced discard. Then I was incredibly stupid, and I decided to... I didn't even need to use this card's effect. I could have said no, but I clicked the yes button. Giving my opponent a discard. So, literally giving him the Havness we just saw him use in his hand, so he gets a fusion summon. I'm really dumb. There's like no way my opponent was going to play the game if I didn't let him do this, so... Very stupid of me. Alright, I'm going to do a bounce effect, grab my thing back to hand, discarding this for a search. Now I'm going to make my Appaloosa. Now I can use my Grapha in hand to pop his card on the field. He's going to try and use the Fates, but he's going to Appaloosa it, we don't really care too much. Alright, draw a couple of cards, don't really hit a whole lot, which is a little bit rough. and pass the turn. So not the greatest play. We're now left with an Appaloosa that's actually undefended because we don't have the rank 8 on the field. And we just have this sort of fusion summon negate set up. So not the greatest end board because we completely cucked ourselves. We had basically full combo. We had to sort of sidestep to remove this thing. It was just bad plays all around. Alright, imperms this card. Then I'm going to use this card's effect to fusion summon out another copy. Basically I only saved this replay because I wanted to show this card despite my misplay. This little fusion summon during my opponent's turn. Just to show you can summon a second one of this. Or even if you wanted to, during your turn, if you're sort of a little bit low on resources, which I kind of was there, I could have used, instead of going to your Appaloosa with 3 materials, I could have used 4 using the fusion monster, then use this thing to summon out one during my opponent's turn instead. So I don't actually lose out on the negate or anything, I just have to have it a little bit delayed. Opponent goes to evenly matched me, which is fine, we have a negate for that. Hey, my opponent was pretty bad too. This is a chain block, I'm pretty sure, but he used it in the wrong order. So I was like, okay, I'll just negate this. He could have chain blocked me here, I'm pretty sure. I think that's how that works. Maybe I'm wrong. Either way, he didn't even hit anything, I'm pretty sure, off the 3 off this, so it wouldn't have mattered. I would just stop the monster effect from this. Doesn't even try to go for a rank 4, just passes the turn where, yeah, he's just dead on field. Also, I'm pretty sure I'm not sure if I changed the deck list already, but I was going to change the deck list if I didn't, where I was going to swap this card out, or swap the, one of the cards out in the extra deck for the Link 4 that can be slammed on top of Appaloosa instead. So if you have an 800 attack Appaloosa, you could summon your big Link 4 monster on top of it instead, so it's just a way to upgrade its attack. I'm pretty sure I upgraded the deck list, but if I didn't, it's that big water monster, that big water Link 4 monster that can use Link 4s as a material. So just basically, if you have like a low attack Appaloosa that just has no real use being on the field anymore, you can get rid of it, summon out a big boy instead that actually has some nice little effects when you can co-link monsters, and it's also got a nice just stat boost that's better than the 0 or 800 attack that Appaloosa has. So I think I added that to the deck list. I don't know if I actually did, but if I didn't, feel free to add it yourself. I've already forgot the name of the card though, so apologies for that one. And we actually had lethal on field here, so it didn't matter. Barely lethal on field though. Alright, on to the final replay, and I think this one is the going second replay. So my opponent doesn't really set up a whole lot here, so it wasn't the greatest example of just me playing through some insane field. But I do want you to keep note of just how many times I can destroy things. Just keep count of it. In fact, we'll keep count ourselves. Just watch how many times I try to destroy things. Alright, so my opponent is playing the brand new trap trick stuff, which doesn't really do a whole lot. I'm not really sure if this deck list is bad or if this guy's bad. I have no idea, but yeah, I've encountered this a few times now. It hasn't felt that strong, but yeah, I'll see when I try to play it myself. So doing all the trap trick stuff, blah 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 blah, getting a trap card. I think ending on one trap card is just bad. I think this deck list was just maybe some unlucky draws or just didn't hit the amount of trap cards he was looking for, because one trap isn't exactly the greatest. Alright. It's not the hardest end field to crack, and we're just going to beat through it very, very easily. Allure, drawing 2, banishing a card. Lava Goleming. I don't even know if I need to Lava Golem here. I could have saved my normal summon. I just couldn't be bothered to read these cards, and I still can't be. I'll read them when I try to make a video on them later, so I just Lava Golem, get that shit out of my face, and keep playing. Alright, DARKWORLD. He's now going to summon back one to the field, which is a little bit annoying, but I don't know. Don't care. We'll just keep playing. Max C being activated. We don't care, we're playing through that. There's no stopping the brakes on this trade now, it's already started. Alright, discarding, grabbing a card, Grapha getting a search, grabbing another dude. So not Grapha, Reign-beaux getting a search. Alright, popping a card on the field. Which triggers this card's effect, triggering this card's effect. Which I think just removes this. Alright, but we forced out the back row though. And that yoink was actually so goddamn annoying, because it meant I no longer had a fiend in the graveyard, so I had to rely on a 50-50 gamble from Bigfoot. It was troll as shit. So I actually nearly lost here. If I lost this 50-50 gamble, I would have lost the game, because I need a fiend in graveyard for my Gate to the Dark World. So if Bigfoot banished himself, Yeah, that would have been real bad. I would have popped a card and that would have been my turn done. But thankfully won 50-50 because we're good at this game. I got my Allure, getting a search. Alright, vanishing, drawing. Right, we just keep going. These duels just never end. Discard, special summon back, getting a search, grabbing another Grapha, drawing some more cards. Alright, discarding, hitting a Grapha. This is another pop of a card on the field. I think though I'm dumb, I think I try to target this thing. Or do I target Lava Golem first? At some point I try to target this thing, but apparently it's immune to being destroyed at least one time or something. I don't know. Alright, adding another card, getting another search, grabbing another Grapha. Going for my Dugares, which is a very strong card in this particular deck, because its draw 2, discard 1, counts as, doesn't count as cost, it's just an effect. So it also procs the discard of your Dark Worlds. Alright, popping another card. Tried to target this thing, so I'm a dum-dum. So I'm just going to steal it instead, because why not? Battle phase, and there's lethal. So keep in mind just how many destroys we just did. We popped one back row, we popped one monster on the field, we tried to pop another, which was immune apparently. We stole a monster, and look at how many cards I still have on field and how many cards I still have in hand. I had so many more resources to play the game. I could have even probably decked this man out, because I have so many more resources here. I could go for the Link 4, wherever it is. My boy. This dude just draw a billion more cards. Then I could activate Hand Destruction, sending all these things to the graveyard, making him draw a billion cards. Sorry, something's stuck in my throat. Yeah, that's normally the win con into Max C, is you try to deck them out, because if you have card destruction in your deck, even as a one-of, the chance of you drawing it when you're drawing through nearly your whole deck is insanely high. So you just make your opponent just draw a billion cards by special summoning a billion different monsters, and then when you activate card destruction, every single card they have in their hand will then just draw at the same amount of cards straight back from their deck list. So there's actually something just stuck in my throat. So this is going to sound... the rest of the recording might sound a little bit bad. I apologise for that. It's nearly over anyway, and I can't be bothered re-recording, so you just have to put up with my my dead throat towards the end of the video. Alright, and that's my opponent gone. So thank you guys for watching, hope you enjoyed. If you did, remember to leave a like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. I still have a bunch more videos planned around the latest selection packs. If you want to see any of those deck lists, especially I think the Evil Eye one, which is next, remember to leave a like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, hope to see you guys in the next one. Laters.
Hey, big brother, can I watch SpongeBob? Shut up, Mokuba. I'm busy flagging YouTube videos to compensate for the fact that I have an extremely small penis. Oh.